Hey, another day, another Chiefs practice, although this one with a different background today. We'll tell you about that. And another Sports Beat Live presented by First Federal Bank. Um, Welcome to the show in St. Joe. We're coming at you from training camp, um, and let's take some roll call here. We got Vahe Gregorian in the house. Vahe, hello.
Good to be with you guys, and I can report many different sorts of weather conditions here, from ice station zebra inside to Jesse Newell throwing away the Mary Poppins umbrella and trying to stay dry out there.
Jesse is not in the oven today. Let's make sure. Nope, there he is. Hey, Jesse. You can see Jesse. And he's comfortably seated on the patio, the back deck, and we'll check in from there again.
I'm glaring at you from here, Blair. I came out here and there was no rain, and now it is dripping on my right shoulder. And there was lightning off that way some way, and I'm sitting here at a metal table on a metal chair. So this is about as good of an idea as it was for me to stand on the sideline of the Chiefs practice today with Patrick Mahomes slinging 100-mile-an-hour shots toward the sideline, and me and you and Blair, Blair, you, everybody, Adam Teicher, who got hit by a Patrick Mahomes pass and now has a welt on his leg. So this is maybe my second best idea of this entire day.
Well, I believe we might be seeing Jesse relocate here in a moment. And but as he said, and hello to Herbie, of course. Herbie, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm in Starbucks, so I'm happy. I'm nice. Hey, it's cool down here. I look at Jesse and I see the rain flying around him. It's nice and dry in here.
Yeah, I think Jesse's.
You see commitment is what you see, Herbie. You see commitment.
No, I see a rookie mistake. That's what I see. This is veteran savvy.
I'm glad you brought up rookies because we're going to talk about them in a little bit. But before we do, I'm going to allude to something Jesse said. I was thinking about this as we were standing on the sidelines indoors today because it rained and was raining hard in St. Joseph, Missouri for a good chunk of the morning. So practice was indoors today. It's the first contact practice inside. And I got to thinking that the Chiefs are always looking for ways to enhance fan experiences for their season ticket holders.
Bad idea already. Bad idea. Whatever you're about to say, Blair, is a bad idea.
Well, I'm just saying, if a few of them could have exchanged places with us today, they would have gotten as close to the action of a Chiefs practice as you can possibly be. I mean, without being on the field. But we were just a few feet off the field, and when the Chiefs were in a red zone offense, too often the action came toward us. and incredibly, on the action that went to the opposite side of the field for us, from us, there was who was it? Was it Gary Jennings that went into the garage door on a? You saw it, Herbie. It was an incredible collision going out of bounds. A garage door, by the way, that we were standing in front of, just on the opposite side of the field. So I'm not sure if he put a crack in that garage door, but he went into it pretty hard.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw it more so than I heard it. From our vantage point, all you heard was a loud boom, and then everybody looks up and you see two players laying there, but they were okay. He got up and then went back to the huddle, and the only thing that was hurt was the door.
Well, I tell you what, though, that was like one of those old movies in Sense Around where you felt like the whole theater was shaking, and because the effect was the entire building, a couple hundred people in there, came to a silenced halt. It was that loud, and I did
go ahead,
little glance at just a little glance at the forensics. At first, I thought we just saw sort of the steam and smear outline on there, but there was some cracked glass over there afterwards. It made me wonder whether they maybe have outgrown the indoor game.
Yeah, I think it's the shatterproof glass, so it like shattered, or it cracked but didn't shatter, which was good for the Chiefs, obviously. But you're right, Vahe went completely silent. By the way, it's sunny out here now, guys. You guys are such pansies. Get out here in the sun with me. But I do want to point out, Blair, when we're talking about trying to use our brains a little bit, I looked directly across at that glass that broke, and then I noticed I was looking directly across at the glass that broke, and if that window pane was on the other side and the pass was thrown to the other side, that glass breaking would have been maybe me or your skull, Blair, because we were right in front of the window on the opposite side. So
Yep.
I headed for the hills. I headed for the end zone. That was enough for me. I've seen enough of the Chiefs bashing themselves into the windows and the walls. It didn't need to be me cushioning their blow.
But you see, the veteran of the group was in the
God.
end zone. So while y'all were over there on the sideline trying to dodge the footballs coming your way, we were safe out of the line of fire at the end zone. Hey, going back to that play, though, yes, it did get quiet, but it was soon interrupted by somebody yelling from the sidelines, "Oh, hell yeah." That's right after that collision. So after that, hey, right back to football. We're right back to football.
Well, and just one more little atmosphere note, Jesse, I think alluded to it just a moment ago. There was a media wound today. Adam Teicher, our buddy from ESPN, took a Patrick Mahomes pass off of his leg and had quite the swelling. By the way, it was a rocket. And
I was next to Adam. That thing was coming. I was trying to get my leg out of the way, and I did, thankfully. But Adam also took one for the team as part of not a veteran move, and that thing was welting up like 2 minutes later. So yeah, if you ever think that Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball with some velocity, you're absolutely right about that. We saw evidence of that today.
And didn't you guys say he was just kind of flicked it away? I mean, it was not maximum release.
I don't think that was max for him, but it was. I'm sure Adam Teicher is feeling the max on the leg right now. I might need some ice tonight.
Okay, so what did we see from the Chiefs? Something that didn't involve us. What was the best thing we saw, and the questionable thing? And I present that because in a moment we are going to talk about the rookie class and what we have seen from the 10 draft picks, basically, and what we've liked and what we wonder about going forward. But how about a highlight, Herbie, from you today? What was maybe the best thing you saw at practice?
Yeah, one of the things that fans need to understand, first of all, is when the team moves indoors, our reporting guidelines tend to fall in line with what we see in OTA's mandatory minicamp because there's no fans out there. We cannot report what we see. A little different from being outside, but what we can report are like head-turning plays. Some of the things that stood out to me today, Noah Gray, the second-year tight end, he is quietly having a very solid training camp. I also liked what I saw to Michael Burton. Burton, their fullback, when you think of a West Coast offense, the fullback is a staple of the West Coast offense. And he had two really nice blocks during one-on-one drills. I loved how he just tossed aside Leo Chanel, their third-round draft pick, and really dominated that performance there. And then on a team drill, you had cornerback, defensive back, Chris Lamons trying to sneak in over there on the right side, and all you heard was and that was Michael Burton. I was like, my goodness, Burton brought the lunch pail today. So Sky Moore also had a pretty good practice, but the two that I just mentioned there off the top of my head, there really stood out.
Can I just mention really quickly about Chris Lamons? I found it strange that he was holding the leg of one adversary as he was trying to run away, and it. I guess there was nobody to call the penalty, but I hope that's not a habit he gets in. It might be detected in the game. Like holding the leg, I'm not describing it very well, holding the leg up in the air.
Like a wheelbarrow.
Like a
That's
wheelbarrow.
the best way to describe it.
Yeah, there are no officials here today. So in some of the practices, they've worked with officials. That was not the case today when they went indoors. How about you, Jesse? Anything that really stood out to you today?
Yeah, we're going to start the Jesse Newell Kansas City Star jinx, I think, because today I thought was by far Ronald Jones's best looks on some of the plays that he's had. He had a big run up the middle and got through and scored the touchdown. And, it sort of makes sense. And Herbie always talks about getting the pads on, but a physical type runner like Ronald Jones making plays now like in practice today, that does make some sense. And, right. I talked about the jinx or whatever you want to call it. A couple days ago, Isaiah Pacheco was getting a lot of first-team reps in those open practices we watched, and Ronald Jones was mostly relegated to the second team. We saw Ronald Jones back with the first team in some practices yesterday, and like I said, I thought today was the best he had looked, especially with going through some of their red zone drills that they were going through. And that makes sense. Again, he's a power runner. He's a guy that can get behind his pads and find some openings. One cut and go, and there was even that one play that he had that Andy Reid came all the way over and kind of slapped him on the butt and said, hey, not nice work. Good play with that. I think, we're going to be talking rookies here in a minute, but I think we saw Jalen Watson yesterday some with the ones, And this has been sort of the camp when we talk about Joshua Williams and the defensive back there. But yeah, I mean, that's something we got to start talking about, is that another draft pick that the Chiefs made that potentially is, we know that Rashad Fenton is out for now, but another cornerback is up there toward the top of the depth chart and looking pretty good out there. So, he had some good plays today. And then Leo Chanel is another, or Chanel, I should say. Leo Chanel is another one where we saw him some first-team reps at strong side linebacker yesterday. He seems to be coming along just fine. And once the pads have gone on, as we might have predicted, he's starting to make some big hits. So, yeah, those were the kind of things that stood out to me today. But to me, probably the player of the day I saw was just from some of the plays he made was Ronald Jones, including one cut. I remember I was next to you, Blair. We talked about that one cut and go, and he was through the hole. And that can definitely help the Chiefs, whether it's a home run ball or whether it is in the red zone where they're going to need some help.
Okay, so let's dive into this and get into the rookie class. But hang on just a second. Let me write this down. Surprise cut list, number 1, Ronald Jones, because of Jesse Newell. Okay.
Jinx reverse. Yes, we got this going. There you go.
All right. Chiefs had 10 draft picks this year. And I have been just every day that we're out here, I get more impressed with the group as a whole, and am convinced that we are going to see a handful of them in starting roles, and a more than a handful, close to it's certainly a majority of them in the 2 deep. So maybe the best way to approach this is which way is the arrow pointing for them, and we'll just go right down the list. Maybe I'll just go. We'll just
Blair, this will be a good visual. We can all point up, side, or down.
Yeah, I like that.
Start it.
I like that. And that'll work well when this becomes a podcast too, when there's no visual.
That is perfect. Hey, perfect.
So, Herbie, let's start with you, and let's start with the 2 first-round picks, McDuffie and Karlaftis. Nothing but good things from both of those players so far, from my perspective.
Yeah, they looked the part. You spend 2 first-round draft picks on these guys, you're expecting them to contribute immediately. So these guys should be day 1 starters or day 1 contributors, just like you said, 2 deep. It'll be fascinating to see how that defensive end position works out once Carlos Dunlap shows up, because he's kind of like the wild card there. You have Frank Clark on one side. They use that first-round pick on Karlaftis, and, of course, logic says, well, he's your guy. But now all of a sudden you bring in a veteran who has almost 100 sacks on his career. Dunlap's going to work into that rotation as well. And so the Chiefs, over the last few years with Spagnuolo, don't mind rotating defensive ends, and they certainly had the depth there.
Jesse, Sky Moore is a product of the Tyreek Hill trade, right? He was in one of the positions that the Chiefs got in the draft because of the Tyreek Hill trade, and saw him returning some kicks today. Interesting for Sky Moore. Pretty positive reviews for him so far.
Yeah, I'd say so. He had the hamstring issue that kept him out of most of the OTAs, and started to get back a little bit with the mandatory minicamp. But you hear from Patrick Mahomes, and you hear from the Chiefs coaching staff about how he's tried to catch up. I thought Mahomes said something interesting to us recently about how he's always kind of next to him in the quarterback room, and he's asking really good questions about, hey, this route is supposed to go here, but would you like it to go here, or would you want it to be this? So those are the kinds of things that, especially in the Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes, when I think they like to call it the blurry lines of the playbook, meaning, the route can say to do this line and then this line, but Patrick Mahomes sometimes wants you to do this or break it off or read the coverage and do this. And that chemistry is what has made him and Kelsey, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey, so successful. And it's also what helped him with Tyreek Hill. Those guys kind of read each other, and it's very hard to defend. So the fact that Sky Moore is doing that right now, asking those right questions, I think that's a positive sign. And when he's healthy, he looks really explosive out there, especially in some of those routes. So far we've seen from the slot, able to get open over the middle and catch. The question right now is, again, he had the hamstring earlier. He's had the hip injury. He's battled a little bit. I mean, just a little bit of hobble the last couple days, yesterday when he left practice, didn't come back, today, was in there for most of the plays and everything. So we'll see how that plays out. He's not the biggest of dudes, but he was pretty reliable in college to stay on the field. So we'll see that part of it. But as of right now, I think the Chiefs have to be really pleased with where Sky Moore is and potentially what he could look like when the season comes around.
Yeah, I see him. I see him in the rotation of wide receivers, kind of like what McCole Hardman was last year and previous years for the Chiefs. He was a second-round pick. So was Brian Cook, the safety from Cincinnati. We've seen him when the Chiefs use three safeties in their nickel and in their junk defense. I think the Chiefs are pretty high on Brian Cook. Third-round pick. You mentioned Herbie Leo Chanel, and I think he's had an evolution here. I think he is. He's gotten better by the. By the practice, and they seem to have just put a little more on his plate since over the last few days.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And, and unfortunately, we're not allowed to report who lines up where. But, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to rotate a few people in with the ones, and maybe Chanel might have been in there. I can't say if he was.
He was with the first team yesterday, Herbie. I can definitely report that.
Well, yesterday, absolutely. But
Vahe got to practice late, so I don't think the rules apply to if you didn't get the rules when you get there. So,
well, I was too busy dodging footballs and chit chatting.
Okay, all right, but anyway,
so yeah.
Right. Okay. Good deal. And maybe same with Joshua Williams, Herbie, rotation. And what's his role when Rashad Fenton comes back? It's
interesting you bring that up because there was a group of us, out of harm's way at the end zone watching practice. We were actually talking about how deep we thought the cornerback position would go because I almost gave away where this one cornerback was playing, but he's kind of buried. And I'm talking about DeAndre Baker, and he's a guy I thought would actually be that fifth or sixth cornerback. And right now, when you look at the competition, the way it's working out, when Rashad Fenton comes back, you got to figure he's in the top four. You've got Trent McDuffie, you've got L'Jarius Sneed, you've got Rashad Fenton, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, Lonnie Johnson. Now all of a sudden, I just named off 6 cornerbacks. So this is gonna be fascinating to see how the rest of this battle shapes out. And I think preseason games will separate the top 3, top 4 guys.
Okay, we've listed 6 of the 10, and I think thumbs up for all 6 of those so far. Not even a thumbs over, as Jesse suggested earlier. But now we come to the 5th-round pick, Darian Kennard, the offensive lineman from Kentucky, the 5th-round selection. I think people had visions of Trey Smith when he was selected, and I'm not seeing it yet. I'm just not. He's the one that, not today, but in previous practices, haven't seen him, certainly not running with the ones at all, and sometimes not with the twos. So I don't know what there is to say here, except this is a thumbs over or towards a thumbs down. We're only a few days into contact practice, but I think he's just got some more work to do.
Yeah, there were some visions, Blair, and I can kick this to Vahe afterwards, but there were some visions from some people coming in the season that he could compete for right tackle because, again, the Chiefs made it look so easy last year with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. It's like those guys from the very beginning were first string, performed well, and then performed at like almost an all-pro level if you're talking about Creed Humphrey throughout the course of the season. We're just not seeing that with Darian Kennard yet. So, yeah, that'll be something to watch. Still time, obviously. I mean, not everybody hits the ground running immediately, but out of all the rookies we've listed so far, that's the one so far that I would say that has not taken maybe some of the steps the other guys have. And so this might be more of a project rather than an immediate contributor.
And, an interesting point you made, Jesse, but just to add to it a little bit, I think we forget how incredibly exceptional the situations of Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith were. I mean, we might look at that as a model, but it is outside the norm. I mean, and so, if you think that through a little more, it's to me anyway, seems far more to be understood that this could be a while in the making for a rookie offensive lineman.
I think I remember one of the redrafts that one of the NFL analysts did where both of those guys were in the first round if you did a redraft of the draft. So, I mean, the Chiefs found gold with both of those guys. That's not going to be a common occurrence every single year to pluck a 4 or 5 year starter out of that. But again, it does make you wonder if they have the magic elixir, and if so, if Kennard would be the next in line. And again, so far, early in training camp, Pat just came on, but we have not seen that development just yet.
I think, let me chime in here real quick before we go on break, Blair. I think the biggest thing why they're not rushing Kennard right now is because they have a veteran. Last year, when you brought in Creed Humphrey and you brought in Trey Smith, they didn't have that veteran presence in front of them. I don't know if you want to count Austin Blythe as Creed Humphrey's top competition, but it was essentially his job to lose. Trey Smith was a guy who should have been a second or third round draft pick if not for the heart conditions. And the Chiefs, they found lightning in the bottle when he kept sliding down. But when I look at the right tackle right now, they signed Andrew Wiley. They brought him back on that 1-year deal before they drafted Kennard. So I think they're content to let him almost have a redshirt year, if that makes sense.
I will say veterans, sometimes they take it easy. They sit at Starbucks. They stay out of the way of Patrick Mahomes footballs. But sometimes you need rookies to step in, be around lightning and rain and, do crazy things just to see if things work out. I'm just saying, Herbie, sometimes it's good to have some rookies in there.
Keeps it fresh.
Yeah, you could say that, I guess. I wouldn't, but you could say that. All right, let's call it halftime and hear from First Federal Bank.
When I bought my first home, I was searching for listings and negotiating all on my own. Now I'm back in the housing market and I could not imagine doing that again. But then I found First Federal Bank of Kansas City's expert loan advisors at ffbkc.com. They were kind, knowledgeable, and available 24/7. My loan advisor answered my questions and helped me feel confident all the way through closing. I trust First Federal Bank because they understand banking is personal. Apply today for a home loan at ffbkc.com/homes. First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
We are back on Sports Beat KC talking Chiefs from training camp with Jesse Newell, Vahe Gregorian, and Herbie Teope. Just wanted to shout out to Terry, to Jack, to Brian, Ivan, RJ. Thanks for checking in, and thanks for watching. Okay, guys, but let's finish up with kind of a quick thought on the final three. That's how big the draft class was. We couldn't get it all in the first half of the show that went so long anyway. Herbie, why don't you take Jalen Watson? What do we see? Again, we're talking about the cornerback position, which is so deep.
I think if anything, Andy Reid said it best. He mentioned after practice there will be a competition there. A lot of this is going to really depend on when Rashad Fenton returns. I think the longer he's out, the more we'll get a chance to see the Joshua Williams and the Jalen Watsons. You got to remember, back in the spring, General Manager Brett Veach said the target date for Rashad Fenton to come back was the start of camp. We're 2 weeks in now, and he's still on the PUP list. So the longer he's out, the better it works out for these rookies. Okay,
and just while we're on it, the last pick they had in it, because there's someone else that I want to talk about, but the last pick was Nazir Johnson, the safety from Marshall. I just haven't. He hasn't popped much, but maybe I've missed it. I just haven't seen much of Johnson.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there as well. You're talking about a 7th round draft pick, and in the draft, when teams use that 7th round pick, they're looking at projects, somebody who could help out on special teams, and maybe that's what they're eyeing for him.
Okay, and finally, let's wrap it up with Isaiah Pacheco. Interesting cat. It was asked about it today. A couple of players weighed in on him. Andy Reid gets asked about him quite a bit. The running back from Rutgers. We've seen him in several practices be the first guy back taking kickoffs. But But Jesse, that running back position is pretty darn deep.
Yeah, it is. And again, we just talked about Ronald Jones emerging lately, and potentially that shifts things around. And they already have a roster crunch when we're talking about, okay, they're going to keep 4 tight ends. Are they going to keep their fullback like they always do? And Herbie will tell you, we know that Andy Reid's going to keep his fullback. That's part of the West Coast offense. That's part of what he likes to do in short yardage situations. But we talked to Dave Tobe yesterday, a special teams coordinator. He said, Pacheco's returning kicks, man. And it makes sense. He's a bigger body. He's got speed, had tied for the fastest time of the combine as far as running backs go with speed. So it makes sense to put him back there, but he seems like a guy that's going to make the roster for that, if nothing else. We'll see how he factors into the running back mix, but right now it seems like a special teams lock and a guy that they really like. And there's a reason that Brett Veach before the draft talked about how he liked some of these 6th, 7th, and potentially 6th and 7th round running backs and guys that even go undrafted. They probably had Pacheco up there on their board and seem plenty happy to have him right now. He's gotten a lot of action so far in camp.
Okay, we got to talk to 3 players today, as we usually do, and I thought I thought a couple of them were pretty darn interesting, but one that we're going to hear from right now, in fact, is Willie Gay, linebacker Willie Gay Jr., and when we come back, I want to get Vahe's impressions of what he heard today from from Willie Gay. And again, interesting guy with some interesting thoughts here. Let's run it, Monty.
So you said you want to lead the league in interceptions among linebackers,
Yep.
right? What gives you that confidence to make that goal?
Because I know I can do it. Coming out of college, man, I was a guy I feel like was drafted because of my coverage ability. And, man, like, I feel like I dropped 4 of them last year, Cowboys, Broncos. I feel a couple other teams I can say. And I feel like, man, if I make those opportunities and, make the play, that's like 5-6 interceptions last year. So this year, man, I really can take it to the next level. I know that for a fact, so I'm definitely going to do that.
How much of having to guard Travis Kelce in practice helps you play?
Oh, man. You know what? That's a good question because Travis he's different. Tight ends don't run routes like Travis. He's patient, very slow routes, but they very efficient. So he'll make a move on you, man, and 10 seconds been passed by already, so you think the play over and he hits you with a up and out or something, but it definitely makes you better for the guys that you play against every week because, once again, nobody runs routes like Travis. Nobody can throw the ball like Pat. So we get better over there, man.
Good stuff. But I thought it's actually his best line is one that I didn't get to cut, and that was when he basically said his rookie season he was just a kind of a lost soul as a rookie. And so he was asked about the other rookies, the ones we just talked about, and he was pretty open and honest about how the game was so fast for him as a rookie, but he's confident enough now to throw out a number for the interceptions he wants to track this year. So what'd you think of Willie Gay Jr. today, Vi?
As ever, I really appreciated him. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said how I think candid and open he tends to be and speaks from the heart. Caught himself a little bit there after he called Travis Kelce slow and made a point of saying that he didn't really call him slow. I knew what he meant. But I think the very point you're hitting on with the way he spoke about how overwhelmed he was his rookie year. And even I can't remember the exact term he used, but even going as far as to say, he didn't say I gave up, but it was a term in that realm. And he didn't, just so I think nobody misconstrues that. I don't think he meant like he was, quitting on the job. It wasn't like that, but I think he just kind of came to feel like this isn't my time. And I've got a lot more to learn. The most colorful sequence that I kind of enjoyed was him sort of crowing a little bit about taking another Mahomes interception back and saying that's the reason he knows he can lead the league in interceptions, because if he can take a couple of Pat's balls, you can take them from the other guys. And then Herbie, I don't know if it was you or somebody asked if he told Patrick about that, and he said, "I'm not that cocky." So that it's just a point of humor, but it actually gives you a little glimpse at, I think, the real persona. He's kind of got the swagger, the juice, as he noted, but I think he also has a level head about how he's going to be as a player. I think he's really an appealing guy for Chiefs fans.
Yeah, look, I think between him and Nick Bolton, we're kind of dealing with a position of strength for the Chiefs defense this year. And he was, there's something else that crossed my mind as he was talking. Vahe, you were not up here one day earlier this week when the topic of mental health was popular on the podium. A couple of players addressed it. And you remember his rookie year that Willie Gay had some issues with that, and maybe we didn't ask him about that today. But this is somebody who has had to deal with that, and anyway, I couldn't help but think that he seems to be in a good place right now, and hopefully he is.
Yeah, I that's the sense I have too, and it's funny, the timing of that eludes me because there were a couple of different times at which he spoke about it, and I gather that he's in a better place, and I actually think he would be a really good guy to be able to sit down with and have a talk about it at some point if we could ever design that kind of access with him, because I think he realizes that he's also in a position to have a good influence in that realm.
For sure. Okay. All right, guys. I think we could carry on for quite a long time, as we can every day. But let's stop it here. I think the big thing is we don't have to get Jesse out of the oven. He seems very comfortable out there on the patio.
I'm not moving because I think there's a bug that crawled down my back. So I don't want to know what it is.
I might have a better
rile
angle.
him up.
I'll come down and get it for you. We'll extract it carefully.
All right. So for Jesse, who's got some little work ahead of him here, for Vahe and Herbie, for producer extraordinaire Monty Davis, thanks to First Federal for the sponsorship. And we will do this again tomorrow because the Chiefs are practicing again tomorrow. Good afternoon, everybody.